Hello everybody, this is Nduduzo Makhathini, South African pianist, healer and improviser. Do listen to my special on IusLaw Web Radio next Sunday, November the 6th. Peace and light to you all.
Hello everybody, this is Emanuela Chiriacò. Our meeting today at the Jazz House of IusLaw Web Radio is with Mr. Nduduzo Makhathini, winner of the Standard Bank Young Artist Award, South Africa's closest equivalent to first place at the Mark competition. And he was apprenticed with esteemed older musician and is seen as a pioneer by his own generation. Welcome to IusLaw Web Radio Nduduzo, and thanks for accepting my invitation.
Hello Emanuela, and greetings to all your listeners, and thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me here.
In South Africa, the major art of resistance during apartheid was jazz. Can we consider 1994 the ending date of this narrative for jazz?
Yes, it is very true that jazz stood for resistance. But also jazz musicians use the music to reflect and to even project their thoughts, and sort of project and foresee the future in the music. So it stood for all those three main aspects. After 1994 post-apartheid, things have changed, yes, but not everything has changed. I mean, if you look at the current situation now, what is happening nationally, the fees must fall protest, and all the protests around decolonization of the curriculum at university level. I mean, this we can't help but to think about what happened in 1976, when students were killed and were injured when they were fighting against Afrikaans being a medium of instruction in education. I mean, in so many ways, this would have been and it was a disadvantage for black students in particular that didn't really speak the language as their mother tongue, in a similar way now that, if you just think about how many black families can afford the fees that the universities are requesting, it almost deprives a community of proper education, and obviously then the white students would come from well-off families, and they can sort of afford these kind of fees. But the connection with that is that jazz has always stood for a people that, or a voice that wanted to be heard. And for as long as people are not heard and there is so many questions that are not answered, then jazz will survive as a soundtrack for that. But also it's true that jazz can also be a music of celebrating, so in short, I'm just trying to say that the music will always stand for these things. It's very important that the music is there to sort of like create a soundtrack to what the people are experiencing every day, but also to challenge situations, to challenge conditions of the people.
So, Nduduzo, what are the new areas of relevance covered by jazz music in South Africa nowadays?
As I've said on my previous answer to your question, jazz will always be a soundtrack of, society. And so many things have changed, though. Now you have a big influx of younger musicians sort of coming into the music and playing this music. And obviously, these people come from different backgrounds to the musicians that created this music. The conditions that they live under are different, so you get a different sort of voice with the younger generation now, which is relevant, and it gives birth to a different kind of music, so the narrative constantly changes, but the principles are the same.
And who do you think they are, the new local rising stars in South Africa today?
There is quite a lot of exciting musicians that are coming out of South Africa today. I could think of Linda Skakane, for example, is a young saxophone player from Durban. There is also a sort of huge influx of musicians coming from Cape Town. There are younger musicians like, Kyle Shepard, who is really doing amazing things around the world, traveling with his trio. There is Claude Cousins, an amazing drummer who I love so much. And also there are musicians coming out of Joburg. Now there is a group that is touring all around the world, which is a Swiss South African band with 2 members from Switzerland and 2 of my friends from South Africa, Ayanda Sikade, who originally comes from East London, who has played with Zimnawana, who's played with Fairfago, and really amazing musicians. And part of the band as well, there is African Kiza, who's an amazing piano player. There are just like too many exciting musicians. Right now we have Lisedi Ntsani, who's a trumpet player that is based in New York now. He's originally from South Africa. We have Tumi Mokhorosi, really exciting drummer. I think there's just too many of them. And also I'm grateful that my wife as well is one of the most exciting singers, one of my favorites singers in the country, and she's releasing her album as well. So I think it's really an exciting time for South Africa as far as jazz is concerned.
You grew up in Sweetwaters, a rural community in the green hills of eastern South Africa. What is the memory of your childhood related to music?
I come from the Zulu tribe, which is well known all around the world for its dance and for its very powerful king, Shaka Zulu. But what is less known about our tribe is that we've got a lot of different genres of music that one, got exposed to as a young kid. So many people might know Black Mambazo. They are a Statamia group, but also there are so many other genres, like each and every ritual, like in most African traditions and cultures, each and every ceremony has its repertoire, and each and every ritual has its own unique repertoire. So I got exposed to a lot of this, growing up in Mbubu in Sweetwater. And besides this music, there was also a lot of church music, a lot of different churches all around. So I really got attracted to, the music side of things. And I remember as a kid, I would run into different churches just for the music bit, and when it finishes, then I run to the next church, so, but it was really exciting. But even beyond that, because this place was almost semi-rural, so one could still hear the birds sing, you could still hear the streams running. Now and again you hear the train passing by, but it's like there was just a lot of natural music as well that one could still hear, because the cities were not that urbanized as maybe they are now. So one could still really pretty much connect with natural music.
What is the meaning of ubungoma? Can you translate this word for us? And can you please tell us the meaning of this weird term, ubungoma?
Ubungoma is quite a broad subject. In most Abantu-speaking communities, they use the word ingoma, referring to a healing process, referring to a song, referring to a medium of communication. But the word can also be used in a case of isangoma, which means the diviner or a healer, and which goes through different processes as well. Ukwetwasa, where one is possessed by idlozi. Idlozi meaning a human spirit or a human soul. It's believed that the body dies, but the spirit doesn't die. So basically the process of ukwetwasa is allowing idlozi, which is the ancestor, to be reborn or to emerge in one's spirit. Or in one's life, to give guidance, to give light, is perceived to be something really positive. It's a gift. And at a very young age, I was also given this gift of healing, of ubungoma.
In your opinion, Nduduzo, what is the relationship between music and spirituality?
I believe that the connection between spirituality and music is that music allows one to transcend the physical limitations into a spiritual realm. So we could basically say music is a tool that transports one and one spirit to a realm of the unseen. And music has a power to also influence what we see. And I think also music just helps us in many ways to remember that we are part of a greater consciousness, a greater being. I mean, in a simple setting like being in an ensemble group, you sort of exercise becoming that one voice with other people, with other beings. And I believe ultimately it's towards becoming one with all, and maybe there will be no need for music when that point is reached. I recently read this quote which says, "He who knows the secret of the sound knows the mystery of the whole universe." And this quote is by Hazrat Khan. And I think it in many ways it just summarizes, and defines the role of music in society and puts it in its rightful place.
Can you please say something about the influences your music is permeated with?
That's a difficult one, simply because my music is influenced by everything. It's influenced by music, but it's also influenced by people. It's influenced by how people interact with each other and the surroundings. And but in terms of my creative process, often I have narratives of childhood, or stuff I've seen, stuff I've experienced, my dreams, my thoughts, and I try and just package all these ideas in music. But I'm also influenced by other musicians as well, people like Babu Begim Selego, who in many ways has inspired a lot of what I do, and put a very strong connection for me between South African and American music, jazz in particular. And through him, then I got to know about John Coltrane, and through his music I got to know about McCoy Tyner and a lot of other people. But also I'm attracted as well to the whole free music movement as well. So people like David Eswer, people like Matthew Shipp, so I'm quite influenced by a lot of things, and a lot of the singers from Mali as well. They're my biggest influence, and yeah.
My last question is, what are you currently working on?
I am currently working on a couple of things. Firstly, I'm doing my master's, which is around Begim Selego, the pianist I spoke about earlier. And I've recently also just recorded my solo piano album. For the first time I recorded solo piano, and it will be released soon, and it's 2 albums. So the one album is called Reflections, and the idea with that album is I wanted to just go in studio and play songs that I've written before, and also just like do free improvised sections, which will be reflections on this music that I've created. So it's a 20-track album, and I play a song and then reflect, play a song, then reflect, and that's how the whole album is created. But when I was in studio, I decided also to do another album, solo piano album, and this other one is called Living in a World That Sings. So basically, me and my friends Jonathan Ito and Arian and Hugh Mdlalose, a friend of mine, decided to go on a trip and record some natural sounds. And basically what I did later was I just improvised over those. So yeah, that's what I've been working on.
Thank you for your generosity, Nduduzo, and for your fantastic music. We got into a South African atmosphere thanks to the narrative of your musical creations. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to come here and tell my stories to your listeners. And it's quite an important part of what I do and what I try to achieve in my music is to really tell my story to a wider audience. And thanks for making it possible, and blessings and lots of love to you.
Quando suono, penso a quei momenti del passato e dentro di me nasce una visione. Una città, una ragazza lontani nella memoria, un vecchio senza nome incontrato in un posto che non ricordo. Questo è il mio jazz, così diceva Louis Armstrong. Vi aspettiamo tutti domenica mattino con la Jazz House di IusLaw Web Radio. Buon pomeriggio a tutti.
IusLaw Web Radio 331 3097 852 www.webradioiuslaw.it. Ascolta quando vuoi e dove vuoi IusLaw Web Radio, la radio per gli avvocati fatta da avvocati. Scarica la nostra app per Apple e Android. Tutti i giorni.
Libertà e diritto per diffondere giustizia. È con la passione che si raggiungono i grandi traguardi e le frequenze di IusLaw Web Radio pulsano di amore per la nostra professione. Questa è la radio degli avvocati che parla agli avvocati. In onda ogni giorno tutte le novità normative, gli approfondimenti e le interviste sui temi di attualità passano da qui. IusLaw Web Radio, il vostro appuntamento quotidiano con la giustizia.